Like they easily could still play themselves into the playoffs still and be a 5 seed or whatever, and maybe they can pass the first round. But I'm a big person on either we need to be winning championships or rebuilding. Like there's no in between. Why do you want to play around being the fifth to seventh seed every playoff and not have a real chance of winning? You might as well rebuild. Like if you have the assets too, I think that you might as well rebuild, especially even adding, like, I know Milwaukee's off to a little bit slow, but again, Milwaukee
Injuries.
obviously has a
Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton just got COVID. They got injuries right now.
And and no one's gonna get and let's get to the end of the season, right? No one thinks that you're gonna beat Milwaukee right now with that lineup. No one's gonna beat Miami with the Boston lineup. Even the Bulls, I don't think you're beating. And the Nets are shaky still. Even we don't know, but even by then, they're gonna have the best player on the court with Kevin Durant. I don't think you can significantly say with confidence that the Boston Celtics can get past the second round of the playoffs right now with the lineup they have.
Absolutely. The East it's just looking so good right now. Everybody else around them is making moves. The Bulls are making moves. The Wizards are making moves. These other teams that have been at the bottom are starting to make moves, and they're trying to be championship contenders. So I definitely agree that, the Celtics got to do something if they want to try to make some noise finally, as far as their recent history.
Yeah. And I think my only other really NBA take was that the biggest thing is that the Warriors can win without Curry this year.
They could win without Curry?
They could win without Curry this year. Think about it. He put up 15 points last night on bad shooting, and they were still able to get a win against a decent Hornets team who's not just a joke of the league anymore.
For sure.
But Curry can have those off nights. Did you see that stat where it's there was a 3 or 4 game stretch where he was averaging 2 points in the fourth, and they were winning those games.
Yep. They started out the year like that. Yep.
If that happened last season. If Curry was having those games, they would have lost every single one of those last year. It's interesting how the chemistry and just I don't know exactly what else, but Jordan Poole is obviously a big factor this year. But even just some of the other key rotational pieces have just been fitting really well with their scheme they like to run.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, Jordan Poole in himself, he's playing like Stephen Curry would normally play. He has definitely been taking a huge step up from what people originally anticipated he thought he was going to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, he had 31 last night.
Yeah, he had a big game last night.
I remember he was in the G League at times last season. They had to put him in the G League at times.
Yep.
So I don't know who has been training him or coaching him or what mental switch that flipped, but he's definitely a different player.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's giving them the boost they need until Klay Thompson gets back. He's definitely giving them what they need offensively.
And that's what's wild is they went on a nice start and they don't even have Klay Thompson. They're 6-1 without Klay Thompson.
Yep. They definitely are.
They beat the Lakers. They beat the Lakers twice and the Clippers already. I mean, the Clippers don't look as good, obviously, without Kawhi. But still, and obviously the Lakers are early too. But still, those are not
bad
bottom
teams.
of the barrel teams.
Yeah, I mean, I did not anticipate them to get to offense to as good as the start as they have. I think the Warriors just have holes. I don't like them just because they don't have a solid big. They don't have Wiseman is out for now, and I still don't even think when Wiseman comes back, he's not a dominant big that I would like to have. As far as a presence and the paint defender and stuff. But I mean, they haven't even had the greatest. They just have a whole lot of shooters and a whole lot of guys that just play. Gary Payton last night. I don't know if you saw that, but Gary Payton came in, had 14 last night, and was just an animal on the defensive end and was just locking up. If those kind of guys like Gary Payton and Jordan Poole are going to come in and play like that, I mean, why not, right? I think honestly, last year, had there not been the play-in tournament last year and they just barely lose.
Okay, yeah. So, and that's another franchise. Yes, a great regular season team for sure. But we've seen this now a couple times that are they a good playoff team? Are they a good championship team? And I don't. Oh, dude, I don't. I hate the Jazz. So there's also some bias in that. I hate Rudy Gobert. I hate all these MVP talks for him. I do not believe he is a good big. He's a 7'2" person who just happens to be luckily half athletic and to be able to be in the NBA. So I still don't know if that's a winning recipe for Utah. I get not just like switching everything up. I understand that obviously you were the first seed in the West last year. You don't need to switch it up, but like I don't know. Like it doesn't feel like I would still say the Utah Jazz are a pre-contender. I don't believe that they might get to the Western Conference Finals. That's possible.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that they're an actual finals team still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, last year they choked against the Clippers. They have the best. I guess it was voted. I saw earlier that it was voted as the best home court advantage in the NBA. GMs around the league and staff around the league have said that the Jazz have the best home court advantage. And I'd have to agree. Last year when I was watching the NBA playoffs last year, the Jazz's home stadium was it was a madhouse. And they still, like, I mean, I don't know how much Terry Stotts has been there for a while, but I know that last year when Terrence Mann is just continuing to hit corner threes and you're guarding him with Rudy Gobert and you're just letting that man light you up, like you just blew that opportunity last year.
And maybe that was where they should have looked. It's not a roster change, but a coach change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Terry Stotts has been there a while, and they've just been, the same. They keep getting bounced in the second round every year.
Yeah, or they blow a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. That too.
Yep, there's that too. I forgot about that. Shoot, that's funny. Well, with that being said, we'll go ahead and roll into my Laythams list this week. I got one team entering the list for the first time this year. I think it's the first time. I might have had them in the list earlier this year. A lot of movement at the top, of course, with Arizona losing, so we'll get into that for sure. So at the 10th spot this week, I'm going to put the Raiders. At this point in the season, if the NBA or the NFL season ended today, the Raiders would technically be the 1 seed in the AFC. You got to give them a little bit props with everything that's going on off the field for the Raiders, with their coach and now Henry Ruggs. Derek Carr came out yesterday when he was asked about it, and he had a pretty solid answer. Derek Carr doesn't get the credit I feel he deserves, honestly. He's playing pretty well up to this point. He's airing out the ball pretty well, especially because they haven't established a dominant run game up to this point. Their defense is legit. I like their defense. Their defense is pretty good. They have a great pass rush. And Derek Carr yesterday came out and said that he hasn't talked to Henry Ruggs since all this happened, but he knows he's going to eventually. And he said that Henry Ruggs needs a lot of love right now. He knows that he messed up. He's in a lot of pain. He's in a bad state of mind right now. And so he said he's definitely going to be looking to help Henry Ruggs out right now, because a lot of people are definitely throwing a whole lot of negativity and a whole lot of bad at Henry Ruggs, as they should, right? It was a dumb decision by him, but definitely he's getting a whole lot thrown at him right now, and Derek Carr feels like there needs to be just a little bit of love. Like, he understands that he's messed up to this point. So at the 10th spot, I got the Raiders. How you feeling about that?
Well, listen, I don't know, because I don't know who's 9 yet, but I do believe the Raiders are. It's tough because when you have so many things happen, like, these are just distracting things that are going to keep players' minds off the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're not, like, you want to be focused only on football during these next, 8 to 12 weeks, whatever it is, right?
Second half.
But now you have all these off the field situations that keep happening. So it's tough for me to believe that, like, the Raiders are actually going to be like, they probably will make the playoffs, but it's tough for me to believe that they're going to be at the end of it. If they can win a playoff game, in my eyes this year with everything that's happened, I would say that's a pretty successful season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a wishy-washy team for them. I know if they played Baltimore over again, they wouldn't beat Baltimore, but they beat a team like a Baltimore, but also lost to a team like the Bears. So
yeah,
the Titans, simply for the fact that what are the Titans going to do without Derrick Henry? The Titans have had Derrick Henry for as long as I can remember, right? Derrick Henry hasn't had any injury history, as far as I can remember, up to this point in his career. He hasn't had any kinds of injuries. So the Titans have always been able to rely on Derrick Henry all the way up to this point, right? I don't think their defense is good enough to keep up to be able to stop the other top teams in the AFC. That's another reason why I have to keep them down here, because now you don't have your number one weapon, your most reliable player, right? And not to say that Ryan Tannehill hasn't been playing well, because for the last 2 weeks, Ryan Tannehill has kind of honestly put up some pretty solid stats. Him and, obviously, just last week, him and A.J. Brown connected on a whole lot last week, but his last couple of games have been 265, 270, 3 touchdowns, a touchdown, pick here and there. I mean, he hasn't been horrible up to this point in the season, so I believe the Titans have the ability to air it out, especially if, I don't know what's going on with Julio Jones as far as his injuries, but, if they get back Julio Jones this week, it's not like they don't have the weapons to pass the ball, right? They still have A.J. Brown. They still have Julio. And then I guess they picked up Adrian Peterson to be the guy that they're going to run with while Derrick Henry's out. But I had to keep them down because I have to see what they're capable of without Derrick Henry and when they have to run the offense, basically through Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, no, I when you first said Titans, I was like, that doesn't sound right at 9. But I did forget that I forgot that Derrick Henry is hurt and he's out for the majority of the season. I saw that there was a possibility they could get him back for playoffs.
Yeah,
I don't know. It seems kind of unlikely. But you're right. If this is going to be the first time where Ryan Tannehill doesn't just have 22 in the backfield, and where he can't just hand it to him 25 times.
Yep.
Right now, usually, right when a defense is going against it, when a defense is preparing to go against the Titans, right, the number one plan is always how do we stop Derrick Henry?
Yep.
It's not how do we stop Ryan Tannehill, which changes this week now. This is the first time that the defense is going to be looking to stop Ryan Tannehill, which is interesting. So it will be. I have to agree with you, right, that I don't believe the Titans, especially now losing Derrick Henry, should move up.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be interesting, right? Who knows if Ryan Tannehill's a baller? We're about to see.
Yeah, for sure.
We're about to see if he's a franchise quarterback or not.
Mm-hmm. And they play the Rams on Sunday night next week. So so now they have to go up against an elite defense without their elite run game. So now they literally have to just sit back and just pass the ball at this point. And you trying to pass the ball against the Rams defense is going to be, it's going to be a test for the Titans for sure against an elite team like the Rams. Up to the 8th spot we go. Gonna have to put Cincinnati. They're gonna be down 2 spots from last week. Can't blow a game against the Jets. Every good team is allowed a bad game here and there. And honestly, up to this point in the season, this has to be the Bengals' bad game. Obviously, they just never really got anything clicking offensively against a really bad Jets defense. Okay, I wouldn't say really bad. They're just not, to the tier of what they've been playing as far as they've been playing the Ravens defense. They'd played the Steelers defense, Green Bay's defense. They'd played good defenses and done well against those kind of defenses. And then for them to struggle to get going early against a Jets defense, that's, it's going to take, you're going to have to take a blow in the rankings for that kind of a loss to the Jets. We all understand that Mike White is apparently going to come in and be the next Patrick Mahomes, but at this point, that's a tough loss. But like I said, it wasn't their worst loss of the season. Their 2 losses to this point were to the Bears and to the Packers. The Bears was all the way back at the beginning of the year. I don't know, between week 1 and week 2, some teams just heck, the Saints beat the Packers, and Aaron Rodgers had the worst game of his career week 1. The Bills lost to the Steelers. Week 1 and week 2 had some weird games at the beginning of the year, if I'm being quite honest. So I wouldn't even count it against them losing to the Bears. But Packers was their other loss, and the Jets loss is going to be their bad loss. They got the the Browns this next week. I just think they just couldn't get anything. It looked like he had talent. He looked like he was capable, and he definitely came in and was slinging it around. His 2 picks were just tipped balls that just kind of fell into the defender's hands because his receivers just dropped it. But I'm not too worried about Cincinnati. That's just a tough game. It was the traditional trap game where they just beat a good team in the Ravens. Then next week they have a divisional matchup with the Browns. It was just that trap game sitting right in the middle of their schedule that maybe they could have dropped. How you feeling about the Bengals, Mr. Bengals fan?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm glad we're still top 10. I didn't know if you'd put us there.
Oh, yeah.
I was scared for a second. I know you're not a big Bengal fan, so I thought that your bias would play a factor there. I did.
Nope.
No, I think that it's a fair ranking so far. You can't lose to the Jets. That's obvious, right? And it doesn't, it just sucks because, the schedule doesn't get easier, right? These are the ones that you have to win when you're the Bengals. Like if you're Tom Brady, I would say in past years Patrick Mahomes, but if you're Tom Brady, if you're Allen, right, you can do these type of things. You can give a game away. You can give 2 games away. If you're Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're a new team that really this is the first year that we've been successful in some time, and it feels like we have hope. These are ones you can't lose. These are ones you just can't lose.
Mm-hmm.
Especially to Mike White. Who we give up 405 passing yards to who? I do understand, right? Like it's a good point to be made that there's no film on him, so how do you study for him? I get that. But I don't care who you are, dude. How do we stop Lamar Jackson more than we stop Mike White?
Yep. Solid point. There was I saw this on social media. There was a guy that bet $1,000 that Mike White would lead the league in passing last week, and he hit. So he won $24K on. He just threw it out there. He said, "You know what? $1,000 Mike White leads the league in passing this week." And sure enough, he won AFC Player of the Week, even at that. So Mike White giving the Jets something they haven't had in a very long time. Up to the 7th spot, I'm going to put Ravens. They go up a spot just because the Bengals lose that game to the Jets. So now the Ravens retake the AFC North. A lot of guys coming back from injury now. Nick Boyle is getting really close to coming back. He's essential to the Ravens running game. Derek Wolfe has been out up to this point in the season, a great presence inside. Hi guys, it's Laythams for the Take My Shot podcast. I wanted to tell you guys about our new partner, Underdog Fantasy. You guys ever want to know how I'm able to know so much information about my show or so much information about players that I'm able to do my show every week? Well, thanks in part to Underdog Fantasy, I'm able to do that. Underdog Fantasy is a super fun over-under sports betting app where you simply bet over-under on your players' favorite stats for the evening. It's that simple. I simply get on the app every day just to kind of look at it, see what players are playing well, what players are not playing very well. Helps me so much with my podcast. If you guys use the link in the description down below, you can use my promotion code of Take My Shot to get your first deposit up to $100 matched. If you deposit $30, they deposit you $30 back, so you get $60 for your guys' first bet. You can bet up to 20 times your money on a 5 slip. It's super fun. I find myself doing it all the time. Keeps me super up to date. Like I said, it's a super fun app. So if you're gonna want to download Underdog Fantasy.
Yeah, I would say with the Ravens being 7 ahead of Cincinnati, that might be my first iffy one.
Okay.
Right? Show me you can beat me first before you put me
okay.
out, right? I'm from the show me state, all right? I'm from the show me state. You got to show me you can beat me before I just put you over me in the power rankings. No, but all jokes aside, honestly, yes. The Ravens are 7 out of 10 times a better team than the Cincinnati Bengals are right now. And especially as the Ravens get healthier throughout the season, yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to believe that in the next matchup that Cincinnati will get them. But yeah, so the Ravens, they face who again this week?
The Vikings.
The Vikings.
At
that's
home.
Right. And that's one that I personally, if I was betting, I'd avoid that one just because you don't know what Vikings team you're going to get. Should the Ravens win? Most times, yes. But we just saw I don't know why or how, but the Vikings obviously I think were the better team, right? I think they should have been playing really well.
Yep.
Once I knew that, I heard that Dak was out, and I was like, the Vikings should win this from they should win by 7 to 10 points this game.
For sure.
So it was interesting to see them not take control of that game.
Yeah.
It's easy to be like, oh, based off of what just happened last week, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, the Ravens are going to win this by 14. But that the Vikings team, the Vikings are just an inconsistent team where they have these weeks where they're up and down. So I think the Vikings could beat the Ravens, and that might be a star to put right there on a check right there to see what a good game to see of the week.
For sure. Up to the 6th spot, down 4 spots from a week ago. I'm going to put Tampa. Tom Brady just kind of, I don't know late in that game, he just didn't look efficient. He didn't look good. He didn't look solid. I don't know what to take from that game. Sometimes, I mean, divisional games are they're weird sometimes. Sometimes, even if, the Saints are not better than Tampa Bay, but the Saints have gotten the Saints have gotten Tom Brady and this Buccaneers team every game since they've added, or aside from the playoffs last year, I've gotten him in the regular season every time. Have beaten this Buccaneers team with Tom Brady. Sometimes playoff or divisional games just get to you. I mean, I definitely thought, I was like, okay, Tom Brady late in this game can go make a drive. He just didn't make good reads, and I mean, they lost that game. And I'm not saying that was a bad loss for them because, like I said, sometimes divisional games they work out like that. But now that puts the Saints right back in the mix of things because now the Saints are only one game back, and they're only one game back because the Buccaneers haven't had their bye week, so they just have one win over them at this point. So basically right now at this point, the Saints are now tied for the one spot with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and I think that we found out what Tom Brady's kryptonite is.
Mm-hmm.
Regular season Saints.
Yeah.
And the playoff Giants. That's his kryptonite. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
feel like I don't understand why the Saints continue to be a great regular season matchup against Tom Brady. But they do. I would question putting them back this far just because I think your next 5 teams that you have, I don't believe are better than Tampa. Somebody's got Tampa's definitely, for me at least, top 3. Even with that, like personally, like the Cincinnati loss was way worse than the Tampa loss for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll just see. I need to see what happens here in this next couple of rankings. But that one feels like a little bit of a overreaction, some would say.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I definitely had trouble with this. Every week, my top 5 it gets tough for me because I'm like, okay, who can beat the person above them, right? Like I'm saying at this point, when I get up into the top 5, it's the people above these teams can beat the team above them, right? So above Tampa Bay at the 5, I've got the Cardinals at the 5. I probably should have moved Tampa up a little bit higher than the Cardinals, but I can't fault the Cardinals. The Cardinals played a great game versus the Packers. They just that little miscommunication versus with Kyler Murray and AJ Green right at the end of the game. That's all it costed them, right? They were basically an AJ Green turnaround away from beating the Packers, right? Because if AJ Green turns around, that's a perfect ball that Kyler throws to him, right? Right on his back shoulder, right on the far sideline. I mean, if he just turns around, bang, they beat the Packers on Thursday Night Football in prime time. I mean, they were just right there. So I can't say I still have the Cardinals up here as one of the top teams in the NFC for sure because that's what it was. But that was the only knock I had on Arizona up to this point in the season, why I hadn't felt super confident in them, is just because it's those little things, right? It's those little things with teams that are more experienced, more put together, like a Packers team, like a Buccaneers team. Those kind of mistakes wouldn't happen with a team that's been through it, a team that has experience. Just because this team is so young, this side of J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones, they have no championship to little playoff experience aside from those couple of guys.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, if you have Aaron Rodgers, right, you're never out of any game. It doesn't matter. You have Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, definitely not the worst loss. It's not a Jets loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It does feel weird. Like, when they were undefeated, I don't know if everyone was like, yes, for sure, don't get me wrong, Arizona is championship contender.
Oh, yeah.
But it does feel like they're not the best team in the league, right?
No.
There's definitely holes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think the biggest thing does kind of come down to inexperience, especially at the quarterback. We don't know. Like, Kyler Murray didn't play his best game. He did not. And so that's what's going to happen kind of.
They're still technically the top seed in their division now in the NFC East because they were able to beat the Rams, and now they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So they're still now that they've made it to this point in the season, because a year ago they made it here and they were looking good and they fell apart at the end of the season. So now they got to keep it together, get some big wins towards the end of the season, and make that playoff push for sure. And then up at the 4, I'm going to put the Cowboys. I wanted to, if a team above them hadn't made a move they did this week, I would have made them higher. Simply because I, with all anticipation, had a solid, I was like, you know what, the Vikings are going to win this game. They're going to play a really good game. They're going to go after Cooper Rush, and they just didn't. And I don't understand, when you got a guy that hasn't played a single as an NFL snap in 6 years, like he'd been in the league for 6 years and been a backup for like 6 years, hadn't played a single snap. You got to just go after that guy. You got to just absolutely send the house to him every single time. You got to throw all kinds of different coverages at him. You got to just confuse him and have him just in a box all night long. You have to just go after a backup quarterback like that, and that is not what they did. And even same for Dallas. I thought Dallas was just going to hand it off to Zeke, run a whole lot of short stuff to Zeke, run some short routes, get him going, and I mean, they honestly did exactly what they would have done if Dak Prescott was in the game. They didn't do anything different, which kind of that I got to give them credit for that. Cooper Rush came in and probably played just as good as Dak would have played, honestly. Aside of the Vikings' first drive, the defense looked great. The Vikings, the Cowboys' defense looked great. The Vikings came down that first drive and had. After that first drive, I thought, okay, the Vikings have got this, right? But honestly, the Cowboys' defense locked up for the rest of the game. Rookie Micah Parsons won NFC Player of the Week. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, the Cowboys, they are a contender right now at this point.
Yeah, definitely an impressive win for sure. Question is do we even need Dak, right? We paid him all this money, but it seems like anyone can get back there and throw for 300 now.
Yeah.
No, but it was crazy to see. You're right. The Vikings' game plan was not great.
No, bad game plan.
It's weird to think about the Cowboys having a good defense too, considering how historically bad they've been. They have the best cornerback in the league. That's been proven.
In Dak? I don't know about that. Oh, cornerback. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The best cornerback in the league.
Okay.
That's been proven.
All right. I don't know about that one.
But all jokes aside, like this, it's weird to think about Dallas. This is the best I've seen Dallas play in maybe my whole lifetime. Actually, like I don't think there's, and who knows? I'm not saying that Dallas is always going to be Dallas, right? Let's see what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Didn't they go? I want to say like maybe was it Zeke's rookie year or something like that?
Yep. Dak and Zeke's rookie year, they went 13-3.
Yeah. So we've seen them succeed a lot, and then nothing happened.
And then blow it in the playoffs. Yep.
So that's still obviously on the table, but it seems like this might be the year they may actually make a deep playoff run.
Oh yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'd rather them go all the way to the Super Bowl and lose by a triple doink field goal. I'd rather that happen than miss out in the playoffs. So I'm cool with that.
Interesting. Yeah, the Cowboys have made. I mean, they made all the moves, right? They got CeeDee Lamb last couple of drafts, Micah Parsons, Trevon Diggs. They're drafting well, and their signature pieces, their marquee franchise pieces are playing well as well. And I mean, the Cowboys, they're legit. I have to admit it up to this point. At the 3 spot, we're gonna go ahead and put the Rams. They went ahead and picked up Von Miller this last week, which is just nuts. As a guy that's from Colorado, it's kind of crazy to say that Von Miller's not a Bronco anymore. It's going to be weird to see him in anything besides a Broncos uniform. I'm not a Broncos fan, but I obviously, if you're from Colorado, you know who Von Miller is. Von Miller is basically this side of John Elway as far as like a defensive player could be, as popular as a defensive player can be. And so that, I mean, but when you get that from the perspective of the Rams, I mean, it's just they gave up all their draft picks for Matthew Stafford and Von Miller. And what are they going to go do this year? Probably win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford and Von Miller, adding Von Miller to that defense. The only knock on that I have on them to this point, as crazy as it sounds, Matthew Stafford has never been in this position. He has never been 6-1 in his career ever. He has never. He's only made it to the playoffs, I believe, twice in his entire career. He's only made it to the playoffs twice as a wild card. To this point, I know Matthew Stafford's playing great, and he's going to probably continue to play great even into the playoffs, but Matthew Stafford has never been in this situation before. How do you feel about that?
Interesting to think about how he hasn't had that time yet in a big playoff time game where he has to make that drive yet. We haven't seen that from him. He hasn't had it in his career. Do I have faith in Stafford? Oh, absolutely, I do. But like it is that is at one point, like that's at one part of like who knows, right? That's like going into some of these other big time games that are going to happen in the playoffs. That might be the difference between them making the Super Bowl and winning it and not even going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I have to agree with the Von Miller as well. It was a weird feeling waking up and seeing that news. And I don't know if you saw the interview they had with him when he was like leaving. Like you could tell he didn't want to. He wanted to be a Broncos for life. Yeah. Like there was no, and I'm happy that at least going to contender.
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure. He deserves it.
Would suck if it was if he went to the Jets or something. Obviously, the Jets wouldn't make this move at this point, anyways. But I'm just saying, that would suck if he went to somewhere where it wasn't as guaranteed as it is with the Rams right now that they're going to be they're for sure a top 5 team in the league. So it's good to see him go at least to a winning team. But it also brings a weird point of the Broncos don't have a household name anymore now.
They definitely don't. No.
There's not a single player and I wonder what. I mean, this obviously means that it's time to rebuild for the Broncos. So, and I don't hate that either. it is interesting that they're deciding now mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's tough because I think that the Broncos just got a new GM, but I heard some things that like they wanted the new GM wanted to give like Vic Fangio is the coach for the Broncos. They wanted to give him a like this like kind of this like last hurrah attempt.
Uh-huh.
So he gave him basically like Vic was like able to do whatever he wanted this offseason and like draft who he wanted, and the GM was just like, this is your last time. So I think that's partially why they didn't just rebuild in the offseason right off the bat. They wanted to give Vic this last season, and I think through what is this, week 8 or week 9?
Yeah.
That I think he's seen enough, which is true. We all understand that the only team the Broncos can beat are JV squads.
Yeah.
They're not beating any of these teams. You could maybe say Raiders now. It's a maybe. They didn't beat them earlier, obviously, but maybe now they could. That's the only team that they have a shot of being within one possession, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that it was the right move for the Broncos, and I think they need to make more. I think they need to continue to try to get picks.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, I don't understand how this whole NFL trade thing works. It baffles me that you can trade Von Miller for a 4th and a 5th round pick. That just baffles me. But I mean, I understand it from the Broncos' perspective. Not everybody always has to win a trade, right? The Rams are obviously the winner of the trade. But, I mean, who knows? I mean, that 3rd and 4th round pick down the road for the Broncos could turn into somebody great, you know? Sometimes you just have to play the long game at that point.
I thought that it was a 2nd and a 3rd pick.
Oh, is it a 2nd and 3rd?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd for, maybe a first ballot Hall of Famer is pretty crazy.
Yeah. The other thing is like the only reason I do also like it is just because that like Von Miller's contract is not good for the Broncos. It's still like I want to say it's still like a 2-year or 3-year like $50 million contract that they don't need for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like in that sense, like would you love to get a first for Von? But Von obviously is out of his prime.
Yeah.
And he's still getting paid like $18 million a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a good move by both teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the Rams are they're loaded now. I mean, they're loading up completely.
Yeah.
The fact that they have to take the contract of Jared Goff still, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, now Von Miller, they're going to be having some cap problems maybe in the year, but that's sometimes what you have to do to just go all in for a Super Bowl. So at the 2 spot, I'm going to have the number 1 team in the AFC. I'm going to put the Bills here. Like I said in weeks past, the Bills have everything to me. They've got an elite guy in the secondary. They've got an elite linebacker. They've got an elite pass rush, all-world quarterback. Their only weakness is really their run game, but they don't have to run the ball when they're dominating as much as they do through the air. Obviously, they have an elite receiver. Everything about the Bills, I mean, aside of them just Josh Allen slipping on 4th and 1 on a quarterback sneak that he would have got, there's no other knock on them, right? Let's throw away Week 1 versus Pittsburgh, right? The same way we're just going to throw away Week 1 versus Saint for the Packers. Let's just throw that away because it means nothing up to this point, right? The Bills are not going to be in any sort of tiebreaker with the Steelers in the playoffs in the long run. Let's just take it away, right? And then he's played at MVP levels. I have no holes, nothing I don't feel good about for the Bills.
Yeah. The only thing, and this is my first knock I think on your list really that I don't like, is I think the Bills are one of the most overrated teams right now.
Really?
Which is I like as a sports fan, I like watching the Bills. I root for the Bills. The only reason I say that they are the most overrated team right now, do you know the Bills' best win right now? Do you know who it is?
Shoot, I mean, you can't even say the Chiefs, but I mean, honestly, it's probably the Chiefs because they've just played bad teams.
That's their best win. That is their best win right now. And in years past, you'd be like, "Oh, that's a really solid win."
Yeah.
This year, it's not. Mm-hmm. It's not a horrible win, but that is their best win. They beat the Texans. They beat the Dolphins twice. They beat Washington, and they beat
the Jags. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and the Jags. Yeah, that's who they beat.
Mm-hmm.
And then are the Chiefs as well. But still, my point is they have not played anyone that dope yet.
Yeah.
And have beat them. Or they have maybe – I mean, they lost the Titans. That's a better team, but they lost them. They have not been able to actually face what I would say anyone on this list. Think about this. Of your top 10, they don't have a top 10 win on here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a top –
Yep.
So that's the only knock that I would put is that they haven't played – and they're not going to play anyone good for a minute.
Yep.
as well, really.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
they'll face the Bucks at the end of the season.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But that's their last. Like, that's going to tell me more than anything else will, because the rest of their season is cakewalk.
It's bad. Mm-hmm.
They're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yep.
But I don't think they're the actual second best team in the NFL.
Yeah, they definitely got a much easier schedule for sure for a top tiered team for them. But also it sucks when they're in the AFC East. That's just such a bad division. You beat the Dolphins 2 times a year. You beat the Jets 2 times a year. That's 4 easy wins just from divisional wins and divisional play. So yeah, like you said, they only have the Bucks. They have the Jets. They got the Saints, but we'll see how that goes. They're really inconsistent. Colts are an okay team. Then they got Patriots. They can beat the Patriots. They can beat the Panthers. They can beat the Falcons. They can beat the Jets. Yeah, they just have a really easy schedule. The only reason why I keep them as high as I do is just because they're a great team playing bad teams, but they're demolishing bad teams. They're 40-point blowout to these bad teams. And I think when a great team can blow out teams they should be blowing out, to me that's a signal that, okay, they're a good team, because they're not, a Ravens team keeping it within a field goal to the Lions. You know what I mean? The Ravens are much better than the Lions. They should be demolishing the Lions, not barely winning on a 66-yard field goal. When a great team can demolish bad teams, I like to keep that into account.
Yeah, you can only play who you can play, right? Like, obviously, like, they don't make their own schedule. They can't choose who they play. So I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, in the sense of when I like look at the rankings, just from my perspective, that like when I'm looking at that, like I need to see some big time wins here, and that's the only knock I put on the Bills, and that's why honestly, I would probably knock the Bills around to 5 or 6 in my personal top 10, just because of that. I just don't know. Like, I need to see how you play against actual real teams.
Yeah. That game the game against Tampa it's going to be a good one. I think it's a late game on a Sunday, so that'll be a good game to watch here in a couple of weeks. With that being said, at the top spot, I have the Packers. Another team in the NFC I don't think has any holes. They just released Jalen Smith. I guess something's really going on with Jalen Smith. No one's really liking him at this point, but they're going to be at the top spot this week, but they probably won't be next week because they're going to lose Aaron Rodgers this week. They play the Chiefs. That's a game low-key that the Packers could lose if Jordan Love doesn't play up to par. Don't think that the Packers can't maybe lose this one to the Chiefs, but after their performance last week versus the Cardinals, this is what I was just waiting for them to get a big win, right? They had played not really good talent up to this point either. I was waiting for them to get their big win. That's their big win. They were my my NFC favorites coming into the year. That they're going to be my best team for this week.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone can refute it, honestly. Like, for the power rankings, the Packers definitely, I think, have to be number 1. I have to agree with you on that. You have as much talent as like the Cowboys or Rams, personally.
Yeah.
But you have Aaron Rodgers, so that obviously
back-to-back NFC championships. A lot of experience.
Yeah, and they've been there. So it does feel like this could be a year they break out. And I thought I heard something about maybe Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are kind of solving issues.
Are they?
And I thought that I heard something about like he's not even like that. The chance of him leaving has like decreased way below than it is, which helps. I think the whole team in general.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that'll top off Latham's list this week. If we run back through it again, we got the Raiders at 10, Titans at 9, Bengals at 8, Ravens at 7, Tampa at 6, Cardinals at 5, Cowboys at 4, Rams at 3, Bills at 2, and Packers at 1.